This is the MCTV Weekday Update.
Welcome to the Thursday edition of the MCTV Weekday Update. I'm Carson Fowler.
And I'm Krizia Williams.
Since Monday, the South Plains has seen a huge change in weather conditions over the last 4 days. After a mild weekend with spring-like conditions, winter has made its way back into the area with a vengeance. Yesterday morning, the Lubbock area experienced freezing fog before sunrise, and that led to an increasingly slippery situation here on campus. The moisture instantly froze to tree limbs as yesterday's high remained below the freezing mark. Later in the morning, the fog transitioned to freezing drizzle, and we even saw a few snow flurries. Temperatures fell even further last night, causing any standing water to refreeze and create hazardous travel conditions. This morning, the Tech campus was a pristine winter wonderland. As in-person classes were delayed until 10 a.m., most services were covered with a layer of ice, and even the fountains near the Broadway entrance were starting to freeze over. This morning's delay gave university grounds workers the chance to salt and sand sidewalks and walkways, and the campus's roadways were also salted. So the one question on many students' minds is, why did winter make such a sudden return to the area? MCTV's Madison Hartin joins us with details on the current cold snap and what we can expect as we continue throughout the day. Madison?
Thanks, Carson. Well, the thing that has been causing the sudden change of weather here on the South Plains, it's a little thing known as a polar vortex. Now, what exactly is a polar vortex? The polar vortex is an area of low pressure, high altitude air that typically resides in the Arctic Circle. So up there and around the Minnesota and upper the United States is where they usually see these conditions. That is the polar vortex. Now, occasionally, its pattern gets disrupted and it shoots out cold areas of air further down into the United States, and that is what we're experiencing now as it slowly moves southward into Texas. This has caused a sudden drop of temperatures here for the South Plains, and combined with the moisture in the air is what we've been seeing with all the ice and flurries around the area. We have been seeing for today a little bit of freezing fog move through the area, which has caused the conditions here on the roads to be a little bit slippery. The freezing fog and freezing drizzle conditions, and possibly for a light snow this morning, did create some hazardous conditions here on the roadways, which are going to continue for the next few days, as we are going to be dropping below freezing every night this week. So really, that moisture has nowhere to go and is just going to continue to be refreezing. So if you are going to be getting on the roads here in Lubbock, Texas, definitely keep it slow. And if you don't know if a road has been iced over or sanded to keep it safe, maybe try to stay off of it, or at least take caution while you're on it and keep it driving slow. Our Lubbock roads are dangerous even when they are perfectly dry and perfectly safe. So definitely keep a watch out if you are going to be hitting the roads at some time in the next few days. But bringing it back into Lubbock, we are going to be seeing some light freezing drizzle as we move into this evening, typical to what we saw this morning. But for the afternoon, we finally managed to see the sun peek its head out for the first time in a few days, which actually dispersed some of the clouds out here. So at least we got to enjoy a little bit of sunshine before we move into the next couple of days, which is going to be pure clouds and pure cold as we move into it. That's all for Lubbock weather for now. I'll be back in a little while to explain our forecast for the next couple of days. Back to you, Krizia.
Thanks, Madison. Even though the cold weather brought a halt to classes this morning, it couldn't keep the university from celebrating a huge milestone yesterday here on campus. February 10th, 2021 marked the 98th anniversary of the founding of Texas Tech University. On that day in 1923, Texas Governor Pat Niff signed legislation that officially created Texas Technological College. To mark the historic occasion, President Lawrence Skuvenick, along with other campus administrators, gathered in the sub to pass out free cake and inform students about the university's birthday. And even though yesterday was a big moment in the university's history, the campus is already planning for an even bigger occasion, with Texas Tech reaching the century mark in only 2 more years.
We enlisted a firm to help us, so there's a year-long schedule of events that are planned. It will begin in December 2022 with the Carol of Lights, and it will end in December of 2023 with the Carol of Lights. And we'll have some special alums who will be performing at those events. But there are several other things scheduled throughout the year.
Tech's 97th year of existence was also one of its most unusual in history, with the cancellation of in-person classes due to COVID-19 and the many changes that have happened since then to bring students back. Skuvenick said that along with yesterday's celebration, the event was also a great way to interact directly with students in person again after the limitations of the last 11 months.
Speaking of the impact of COVID-19, the number of students, faculty, and staff on campus has fluctuated greatly over the last year, And throughout last 7 months, Tex Transportation and Parking Services has worked to make sure everyone can get where they need to go. Earlier this week, Krizia checked in with TPS to find out where things stand as we head into 2021.
Back when the COVID pandemic began to affect campus, Texas Tech's Transportation and Parking Services made changes to accommodate the smaller population here on campus. Brandon Richard, TPS Media Relations Coordinator, says during that time, students, faculty, and staff had less restriction while parking on campus.
Students had a lot more flexibility that had permits as far as like roaming around different commuter lots and for those that were in dorms. And also faculty staff, if you had an R permit, which are those area reserve lots, you could roam around different area reserve lots. As long as you have like an R permit, you could park in any R lot, basically.
Since the beginning of the spring semester, Richard says TPS is encouraging students to be aware of where their parking passes says to park, as parking enforcement has returned to normal.
Make sure to park where your permit allows. And there's different rules. Like if you have a commuter west pass at 2:30, you can park in commuter north. And if you have any TT permit, you can park in any area reserve lot after 5:30.
A common question among students have been, when will the Lime scooters be back? Richard says the campus community may have to wait a while before the two-wheeled transportation returns.
As far as we know, the Lime scooter won't return until we return to phase 1 on campus. And we started out like phase 3 or 4 and are slowly working our way back. And right now we're in phase 2. But until phase 1, we're not even looking at Lime. But once we get to 1, we're going to do what we can to get them back on campus because we know they're popular and the students like them. But until we see it fit and that they're safe to use in phase 1, then we'll get them back out there. But unfortunately, I don't have an exact date or time. But once we return to phase 1, we're going to do whatever we can to get them back on campus.
If you have any questions or concern, visit parking.ttu.edu. For MCTV, I'm Krizia Williams. As we mentioned earlier, the biggest story on campus this week has been the weather. And even though some students may have had their fill of the cold, wet conditions, there's still more big changes to come. So what can we expect for the weekend ahead? MCTV's Madison Hartin joins us in the studio with the latest look at the forecast. Madison?
Thanks, Krizia. Well, what we can expect for the weekend ahead, it can be summed up in one word: cold. You know what? Actually 2 words: cold and wet. For today, as you can see behind me on our MCTV tower cam, we actually did manage to see the sun peek its head out for a little while, which did manage to melt some of that water, but that water is only going to refreeze for tonight. For today, our high temperature climbed only up to 36 degrees Fahrenheit with cloudy and cold conditions and a wind coming from the east at 5 to 10 miles per hour. As we move into this evening, the clouds will start to roll back into the area with being cloudy and very cold, with the 16 degrees as our low for this evening and a southeasterly wind coming at 10 to 15 miles per hour. Now, as we move into this evening here on the South Plains, we are going to start to see the clouds start to roll back in again, which is going to bring some changes here on the South Plains. Mainly, we're going to be seeing our temperatures drop back down into the teens. I think our warmest temperature for this evening is actually going to be Brownfield, which is going to be breaking 21 degrees. So at least if you're in Brownfield, you'll be seeing a little bit warmer weather, but it's not going to be much. It's still going to be awfully chilly out there. Looking into our high temperatures for tomorrow, we are going to be seeing temperatures climb back up into the upper 20s. So that is going to be a little bit nice, but it is still going to be fairly cloudy and a little bit gusty out there, so the weather for Friday will not be nice. Now, as we move into Friday evening, again, we're going to be seeing temperatures drop back deep down into the teens again, with Brownfield again being one of our higher temperatures at only 18 degrees Fahrenheit. So it is just it's just going to be chilly for the next couple days. There's no way around it. Similar conditions going into Saturday, but the big thing that everyone has been talking about lately is Sunday, the big one, the day that we have a good chance of snow for here on the South Plains. And I want you to keep in mind, what you see behind me is actually our high temperature for Sunday, not our low temperature for Sunday. We can see that across the South Plains, we're going to be seeing our high temperature being in the middle to lower teens. And again, that is our highest temperature we're going to be experiencing for that day. What are our lows, if you might ask me? We're are going to be experiencing lows down into the negatives. For Lubbock locally, we might be seeing temperatures as low as -1 degrees, and we actually are going to be seeing one positive temperature out here. Out at Aspermont, we'll be in the positives at exactly 1 degrees Fahrenheit as their low temperature for that day. So at least Aspermont, if you're out there, you won't be dipping below 0 for that day, but there still is a bit of a wind chill for that day, so you never know. Looking at the country as a whole right now, the reason we're going to be experiencing a lot of this winter precipitation is due to that polar vortex and due to some moisture that's been collecting. Now, our precipitation totals are going to be at its greatest here in the blue area, which, as you can see, Lubbock is smack dab right here on the edge of it. So we are going to be experiencing a fair amount of moisture and precipitation over the next few days, which is spreading out across Texas and about the middle of America here on the plains. So across the plains is where we're really going to be experiencing a lot of snow and a lot of wet conditions. Bringing it back into Lubbock locally, however, for tomorrow we are going to be experiencing a high temperature of 27 degrees, a low temperature of 19, and an easterly wind coming at 10 to 15 miles per hour, with cloudy conditions very similar to what we saw this morning. For Saturday, very similar to Friday, albeit a little bit colder, with the cloudy conditions, a high of 24, a low of 9 degrees, and an easterly wind coming at 10 to 15 miles per hour. Now for Sunday, I'm sorry for all you sweethearts out there that want to celebrate Valentine's Day. It's going to be cold, and I don't recommend going out. Maybe spend your Valentine's Day inside snuggling, trying to keep warm with each other. With a high of only 13 degrees and a low of -3 degrees for Sunday, it's definitely not a day to be going out, with a 70% chance of freezing precipitation for the area and a northeasterly wind coming at 15 to 25 miles per hour. We will be experiencing a little bit more warm conditions as we start to move into next week. Probably around Tuesday is when we'll start to see temperatures above freezing again. But for now, it is definitely going to be a cold weekend, so stay safe on the roads and make sure you bundle up. For MCTV Weather, I'm Madison Hartin. Back to you, Carson.
Thanks, Madison. Both Texas Tech men's and women's basketball teams braved the cold this week with matchups here in Lubbock. The U.S. was once again one of the most intimidating environments in college basketball, as fans filled the available seats to cheer the Red Raiders and Lady Raiders on to victory. But was the support enough to push either team into the win column as the regular season nears its end? MCTV's Nathan Lee has scores and highlights from those games and more in sports. Nathan?
Thanks, Carson. The 7th-ranked Red Raider basketball team was at home on Tuesday, hoping to extend their 3-game winning streak against the 15th-ranked West Virginia Mountaineers. On January 25th, the Red Raiders lost to West Virginia despite an 8-point lead late in the second half, so Tech was ready for revenge this time around. Tech guard Mac McClung was just as good as he's been all year, but West Virginia guard Sean McNeil was the story of the first half. He was red hot against the Big 12's best scoring defense, with 15 points in the first half on 6 for 7 shooting as the Mountaineers went into halftime up 40-34. In the second half, the Red Raiders slowly chipped at the lead until they got up 58-57, but West Virginia's leading scorer Miles McBride answered with a 3 to take back the lead, and the Mountaineers never looked back. McBride had 18 points and 3 assists in the second half to keep the Mountaineers ahead to the end. Near the end of the game, Tech head coach Chris Beard was not happy with the officials and went on a tirade that got him ejected, although he still gave a fist bump to West Virginia coach Bob Huggins. Here's what Beard said about the ejection.
You guys know me. I've been in this league 5 years. I don't think I've ever gotten a technical. At Little Rock, I think we got one. That's not my deal. I know what bad officiating looks like. I've coached at all different levels. These guys are the best of the best. These 3 guys out there tonight, not only do I respect and trust them, but just in college basketball, sometimes you got to fight for your players, and that was my decision tonight to do that.
In the end, McClung's 17 points were not enough as West Virginia beat Texas Tech 82-71. Tech was going to play Saturday against the number 2 Baylor Bears, but the game has been postponed due to COVID-19 issues within the Baylor men's basketball program. Tech's next game will be Tuesday against the TCU Horned Frogs in Fort Worth. The game will tip off at 8 p.m. on ESPN. The Lady Raider basketball team played on Wednesday in Lubbock against the number 7 Baylor Lady Bears. The Lady Raiders were hoping to pull off the upset to get to 500 on the season, but Baylor has the best scoring offense and defense in the Big 12. Tech started with a 3-2 lead, but didn't score again in the first quarter as Baylor went up 18-3. The Lady Raiders started to cut into the Baylor lead, but Baylor forward Alyssa Smith was too much to handle, finishing the first half with 17 points. More of the same was in store for the second half. Tech's leading scorer Vivian Gray was only able to muster 12 points on 3 of 19 shooting, and the Lady Raiders finished the game shooting just 28%. The Lady Bears shot 51% from the field as they were led by Smith and her 28 points and 13 rebounds on 12 for 22 shooting. In the third quarter, Baylor guard Dede Richards had a scary collision with Gray. On October 24th, Richards sustained a concussion in preseason practice that left her partially paralyzed, so the Lady Bears were very concerned this time around when she did not get off the ground easily. She was able to walk off the court with help, and she was back on the bench by the end of the game. Despite playing just 22 minutes, Edwards led the team with 6 assists as Baylor won 82-50. Up next for the Lady Raiders is the Oklahoma State Cowgirls. Tip-off is Saturday at 2 p.m., and you can watch the game at the United Supermarkets Arena or on Big 12 Now on ESPN+. On Wednesday, NFL Network insider Ian Rappaport reported that Kansas City Chiefs quarterback Patrick Mahomes had surgery on a turf toe injury in his left foot. The surgery was successful, and he should be ready for the start of next season. Mahomes, a Texas Tech alumnus, suffered the injury in January in the Chiefs' divisional round game against the Cleveland Browns. Despite the injury, Mahomes continued to play, and he went to his second Super Bowl in just 3 seasons as a starter before falling to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. In 4 seasons, Mahomes has a 44-10 record as a Chiefs starting quarterback, 1 Most Valuable Player award, and 1 Super Bowl ring. Today, Texas Tech revealed their full football schedule. The Red Raiders will kick off the season September 4th at the Texas Kickoff in Houston against the Houston Cougars. They will host 2 more non-conference games before traveling to Austin to play the Texas Longhorns September 25th. The Red Raiders will host 6 games at Jones AT&T Stadium and will only have to travel outside the state of Texas 3 times. Under third-year head coach Matt Wells, the Red Raiders will try to get their first winning season since 2015. That's all for sports. Back to you, Krizia.
Thanks, Nathan. The Texas Tech campus is full of hidden gems that many students may not know about as they make their way from class to class. MCTV's Anakin Rios had a chance to stop by one unique area just across the street from the rec center where students can escape from the stress of classes and enjoy the beauty of nature.
Thanks, guys. Well, I'm here in this lovely February weather to get an in-depth look at Texas Tech's horticultural garden. Tucked away between the Robert H. Ewalt Recreation Center and Animal and Food Sciences building is Tech's very own greenhouse, where manager Vikram Baliga teaches students not only about the science of plant life, but how to treat it as well.
So horticulture is pretty much the study of plants. It comes from Greek roots, and it just means about like working in the garden. So we're sort of the practical side of botany. We're like applied botany. So the botanists learn how the plants work, and we learn how to use them and how to apply them in the landscape.
Mr. Baliga, along with students, work diligently outside the greenhouse as well as indoors to keep the plants happy and healthy. Now, one of the best things about the horticultural garden is being able to see all the different types of plant species, ranging from cactuses to beautiful blossoming flowers. Along with instructing students about the plant lifestyle, Mr. Baliga also emphasizes how we as a society should learn the basics of gardening.
For me, it makes it all the more important that we learn how to grow our own vegetables and learn how to garden at home and do some of those basic things that, yeah, you're not going to completely replace your diet with homegrown tomatoes, but if the tomatoes get real expensive at the store or it's harder to get them, it'd be nice to be able to grow your own.
Even though the greenhouse and garden is in a discreet location, anyone can come by at any time to observe the beautiful greenery for themselves.
I would encourage anyone watching to come visit, right? The garden's always open for you. You can come take pictures. You can come just hang out and eat lunch, do whatever you want. And we have a couple of greenhouses that are open to the public. So if you come by and want to look around, we'd love to have you.
If you're interested in learning more about the horticultural garden here at Texas Tech, you can visit their website at depts.ttu.edu/pss/greenhouse. For MCTV News, I'm Anakin Rios.
So, Krizia, have you ever spent any time in Tech's horticultural gardens?
I haven't, but definitely after that, I'm definitely going to stop by and check it out.
That's all for today's edition of the MCTV Weekday Update.
Thanks so much for joining us, and be sure to check ttuhub.net every day for more news. We'll see you next week.